Welcome to our channel. Today, we delve into a thought-provoking topic that touches many lives: the worst experiments done by humans. Throughout history, the pursuit of scientific knowledge has sometimes led to a dark and troubling path, marked by unethical human experiments. These experiments, conducted without proper consent, respect for human dignity, or adherence to ethical standards, have inflicted untold suffering and left indelible scars on the history of science. This essay delves into the harrowing world of unethical human experimentation, examining notorious cases, exploring the motivations behind such atrocities, and highlighting the importance of ethical guidelines to protect human subjects. Unethical human experiments involve the deliberate exploitation and mistreatment of individuals in the pursuit of scientific advancement. These experiments disregard fundamental ethical principles such as informed consent, respect for autonomy, and the duty to do no harm. They often subject participants to physical and psychological distress, sometimes resulting in severe injuries, long-lasting trauma, or even death. The most infamous cases of unethical human experiments, the Tuskegee Syphilis Study, is one of the most notorious examples of unethical human experimentation in the history of medicine. Spanning from 1932 to 1972, this study, conducted by the U.S. Public Health Service (PHS), has left an indelible mark on the collective memory, highlighting the devastating consequences of unchecked medical research and the exploitation of vulnerable populations. This essay examines the Tuskegee Syphilis Study in detail, shedding light on its origins, the ethical violations committed, and the lasting impact it has had on the field of medical ethics. The Tuskegee Syphilis Study was initiated in 1932 with the aim of observing the natural progression of untreated syphilis in African American men. The study was conducted in Macon County, Alabama, where poverty and limited access to healthcare were prevalent among the African American population. The participants were falsely led to believe that they were receiving treatment for bad blood, when, in fact, they were denied the appropriate therapy for syphilis. The Tuskegee study involved several ethical violations that deeply compromised the well-being and rights of the participants. Most notably, the researchers withheld the standard treatment for syphilis, namely penicillin, despite its discovery in the early 1940s. This deliberate omission subjected the participants to needless suffering, allowed the disease to progress unchecked, and caused severe health complications, including blindness, organ damage, and death. Furthermore, the participants were deceived about the true nature of the study. They were unaware that they were being used as subjects in a research experiment rather than receiving appropriate medical care. Informed consent, a fundamental ethical principle, was completely disregarded, denying the participants the opportunity to make an informed decision about their participation and potentially seek life-saving treatment elsewhere. The revelation of the Tuskegee Syphilis Study in 1972 sparked outrage and prompted significant changes in research ethics and oversight. It served as a catalyst for the establishment of ethical guidelines, such as the Belmont Report, which emphasized the principles of respect for persons, beneficence, and justice in human subjects research. The study highlighted the importance of informed consent, the duty to provide proper medical care, and the need for rigorous oversight and scrutiny of research protocols. The Tuskegee study also exposed the deep-rooted racial biases and systemic injustices prevalent within the medical community. African American participants were specifically targeted and denied access to appropriate medical interventions, reflecting a broader pattern of discrimination and neglect. The study serves as a painful reminder of the historical mistreatment and exploitation of marginalized communities, perpetuating mistrust and skepticism towards medical research among minority populations. The Tuskegee Syphilis Study serves as a solemn reminder of the grave consequences that can arise when ethical standards are violated in the pursuit of scientific knowledge. It underscores the need for robust ethical oversight, accountability, and transparency in medical research. Efforts to rebuild trust among marginalized communities must be prioritized through community engagement, culturally sensitive research practices, and ensuring diverse representation in research endeavors. Education about research ethics and the history of unethical experiments is crucial to prevent similar atrocities from recurring and to foster a more just and equitable healthcare system. The Tuskegee Syphilis Study remains a painful chapter in the history of medical research, representing a profound betrayal of trust and a flagrant violation of ethical principles. It stands as a cautionary tale, reminding us of the enduring importance of respect for individual autonomy, informed consent, and the equitable treatment of all participants in research studies. By acknowledging the mistakes of the past and working tirelessly to uphold ethical standards, we can strive towards a future where medical research is conducted with integrity, compassion, and a commitment to safeguarding the rights and well-being of all individuals. The Guatemala syphilis experiments, conducted between 1946 and 1948, represent a deeply disturbing chapter in the history of medical research. This egregious violation of ethical standards involved deliberately infecting Guatemalan prisoners, soldiers, and mental health patients with syphilis without their informed consent. This essay aims to shed light on the Guatemala syphilis experiments, examine the ethical violations committed, explore their consequences, and emphasize the critical importance of upholding ethical principles in scientific research. The Guatemala syphilis experiments were initiated by a collaborative effort between American and Guatemalan researchers. Led by Dr. John Cutler, who also played a role in the infamous Tuskegee Syphilis Study, the experiments involved exposing vulnerable individuals to the sexually transmitted disease syphilis through direct inoculation or sexual contact. The goal was to study the effectiveness of penicillin and other treatments on syphilis prevention and management. The Guatemala syphilis experiments flagrantly violated ethical principles, including informed consent, beneficence, and respect for individual autonomy. The participants were not provided with adequate information about the nature of the experiments, the risks involved, or the potential benefits of treatment. They were deceived and subjected to grave harm without their knowledge or consent, effectively reducing them to mere subjects of experimentation. The consequences of the Guatemala syphilis experiments were severe and far-reaching. Many participants suffered unnecessary pain, health complications, and long-term consequences of untreated syphilis, including organ damage, neurological disorders, and even death. The physical and psychological toll inflicted upon the victims cannot be overstated, as they were subjected to extreme violations of their rights and well-being. The Guatemala syphilis experiments remained largely hidden from public knowledge until 2010, when they were revealed through meticulous investigative research. This revelation sparked international outrage and led to calls for accountability. The United States government officially apologized for the experiments, expressing profound regret and acknowledging the ethical violations committed. Efforts were made to provide medical care and support to the affected individuals and their families. The Guatemala syphilis experiments serve as a stark reminder of the enduring importance of ethical conduct in scientific research. They highlight the need for rigorous oversight, transparent protocols, and the unequivocal requirement for informed consent. These atrocities underscore the critical role of ethical guidelines, such as the Belmont Report, in protecting the rights and well-being of human subjects. To prevent the repetition of such abhorrent practices, it is essential to learn from the Guatemala syphilis experiments and actively promote ethical research practices. This includes fostering a culture of transparency, informed consent, and respect for human rights in scientific endeavors. Robust oversight mechanisms, stringent ethical review processes, and education about research ethics are paramount in upholding the dignity and welfare of all individuals involved in research studies. The Guatemala syphilis experiments stand as a stark testament to the importance of maintaining ethical standards in scientific research. The violation of the rights and well-being of vulnerable individuals underscores the need for rigorous adherence to informed consent, respect for autonomy, and protection of human dignity. By acknowledging and learning from the atrocities committed, we can reaffirm our commitment to ethical research, foster trust, and ensure that the lessons of the past guide us towards a more just and compassionate future. The atrocities committed during World War II by Nazi doctors through their horrific medical experiments stand as a chilling reminder of the darkest depths of human cruelty. These heinous acts, conducted under the guise of scientific research, inflicted unimaginable suffering and death upon countless victims. This essay aims to shed light on the Nazi medical experiments, delve into their disturbing nature, explore the motivations behind them, and emphasize the importance of remembering this chapter of history to prevent its repetition. Nazi medical experiments encompassed a range of grotesque and inhumane practices inflicted upon concentration camp prisoners and other vulnerable individuals. These experiments included infecting subjects with diseases, conducting sterilization and euthanasia procedures, performing painful surgeries without anesthesia, testing the effects of various drugs and chemicals, and subjecting victims to extreme temperature and pressure conditions. The victims were dehumanized and treated as mere objects for the pursuit of scientific knowledge. The Nazi medical experiments were driven by a toxic combination of pseudoscientific ideologies, warped racial theories, and the relentless pursuit of Aryan supremacy. The Nazi regime sought to justify their policies of racial cleansing and eugenics through these experiments, aiming to eradicate undesirable populations and enhance the genetic purity of the Aryan race. The experiments also served as a means to advance medical knowledge in the fields of surgery, immunology, and pharmacology, albeit through abhorrent means. Numerous doctors and scientists were complicit in the Nazi medical experiments. Infamous figures such as Joseph Mengele, Karl Klauberg, and Horst Schumann played prominent roles in designing and carrying out these atrocities. The experiments were conducted in various concentration camps, including Auschwitz, Buchenwald, and Dachau, where prisoners were subjected to unspeakable horrors under the guise of medical research. The Nazi medical experiments were a complete disregard for ethical principles and human rights. Informed consent was non-existent, as victims were deceived, coerced, or simply forced to participate. The experiments violated the principles of autonomy, beneficence, and non-maleficence, causing immense physical and psychological harm without any regard for the well-being of the subjects. The victims were stripped of their dignity, treated as expendable objects, and subjected to torture and death in the name of pseudoscience. The Nazi medical experiments remain a haunting reminder of the necessity of ethical guidelines and the importance of respecting the dignity and rights of all individuals. The Nuremberg trials, held after the war, established the Nuremberg Code, which laid the foundation for modern research ethics. This code emphasized the need for voluntary informed consent, minimization of harm, and the avoidance of experiments that would result in unnecessary suffering or death. It is crucial to remember the horrors of the Nazi medical experiments to prevent their recurrence. By studying and understanding this dark chapter of history, we can ensure that future generations are aware of the consequences of unchecked scientific pursuits. Remembering also serves as a tribute to the victims, honoring their memory and acknowledging the need to protect human dignity and uphold ethical standards in all aspects of scientific research. The Nazi medical experiments stand as a chilling testament to the depths of human depravity and the dangers of unchecked scientific ambition. The suffering endured by the victims remains a painful reminder of the consequences of violating ethical principles and human rights. By acknowledging this dark chapter of history, we commit ourselves to promoting ethical research, fostering compassion, and upholding the dignity and well-being of all individuals. Only through numerous factors have contributed to the occurrence of unethical human experiments. In some cases, misguided scientific curiosity, a quest for personal recognition, or the pressure to advance scientific knowledge at any cost has driven researchers to disregard the welfare and rights of human subjects. Additionally, political and social contexts, such as wartime conditions or ideologies that devalue certain groups, have facilitated the emergence of such atrocities. In response to the horrors inflicted by unethical human experiments, the international community has developed ethical guidelines and regulations to protect human subjects. The Nuremberg Code, 1947, the Declaration of Helsinki, 1964, and the Belmont Report, 1979, are pivotal documents that outline key ethical principles, including informed consent, beneficence, and respect for individuals' autonomy and privacy. These guidelines serve as a reminder of the importance of ethical conduct in scientific research and the obligation to prioritize human well-being. The atrocities committed in past unethical experiments have taught valuable lessons, leading to significant changes in research practices and regulations. Institutional review boards (IRBs) now play a critical role in evaluating the ethical implications of research involving human subjects, ensuring informed consent, minimizing risks, and upholding ethical standards. Furthermore, public awareness and scrutiny of research practices have heightened, fostering accountability and preventing the recurrence of similar abuses. Unethical human experiments represent a dark chapter in the history of science, reminding us of the grave consequences of disregarding ethical principles. The suffering endured by countless individuals serves as a somber reminder of the importance of upholding respect, dignity, and human rights in scientific research. The establishment of ethical guidelines, rigorous oversight mechanisms, and public awareness are crucial in preventing the repetition of such atrocities and promoting responsible and compassionate scientific inquiry. Only through a commitment to ethical conduct can we ensure that scientific progress is accompanied by the protection and well-being of all human subjects. Thank you for watching. Remember about subscribing and liking for more content like this. Goodbye, and remember to research the world.